Yeah, I think so. So, hey, good morning.
Morning.
Good to see everybody. Glad we're back at it again, and welcome to everybody that's joining us online. We're glad that you're connected with us that way. Be sure if you need to share a prayer request or want to connect with us, you can do so on our website. You can do so through the comments of this video. Yeah, let's go ahead and open with a word of prayer. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the community that you draw us into. Not necessarily a community of our own choosing, but a community of the faithful that you call from all backgrounds, from all generations, and you give us the grace and the faith to be and to make a new community, something that looks different from the world and the culture, something that looks different and even catches the attention and surprise of our imagination at times. We also give you thanks for the faithful who have come before us, those saints who have lived lives of faith, who have sung your praises, who have given glory to you, so that we might continue that praise and thanksgiving. And thank you for the support and the comfort that you offer us, not only by your Spirit, but through the people that you draw together for mutual encouragement, support when the road is dark, and for hope for the future. And we ask that those blessings would come to those that are on our hearts and on our minds this day. We include Glenda and Carol, Cyan and Nancy, Jeanette, Rosie and Olga, Jaden and Sandra Kay, Jerry and Phyllis, Mary Jane, Cici, Peggy, the family and friends of Bessie Ann, and the family and friends of Dennis Samuelson. Be with us during this time. Open your word to us so that it might resound not only in our hearts, but in our lives. All this we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely. Okay, so starting with Psalm 84 for the day. We'll see how far we get, but we're prepped for all kinds of stuff. I'm excited because I got something special with this psalm to round it out here in a little bit. But we'll do that. We'll go ahead and read it first and talk about it.
Is that your phone, Lee?
Go from there.
I thought I heard a shofar going on while you were praying.
Yeah, I thought so.
Off in the distance. You know.
Okay.
You never know.
Yeah,
You
it's
just never know.
Perfect.
You gotta remember to get it shut off or.
How far, Pastor?
Let's see, that's a good question. That's just 12 verses, so let's do the whole thing. And then we can talk about
I'll
it.
try not to spill your water today.
Oh, I'll pull it. You know what?
No, I got the phone
can
taken
read it.
care of.
Chances are good. I might spill it as well because I would exit out this way and kick it over. So you
No, I
know.
don't know. I looked at it too. It's like, what? I started worrying about. That's all it said.
Okay.
I started worrying about stuff.
How lovely is your dwelling place, Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may have her young, a place near your altar. Lord Almighty, my King and my God, blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. They go from strength to strength till each appears before God in Zion. Hear my prayer, Lord God Almighty. Listen to me, God of Jacob. Look on our shield, O God. Look with favor on your anointed one. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. Lord Almighty, blessed is the one who trusts in you. Beautiful
Thank
song.
you.
Beautiful song.
So what stood out to you? What's kept capturing your attention today?
Immediately, verse 1, how lovely is your dwelling place.
That's what they say when you first go into somebody's home. You have a beautiful home.
Yes.
Beautiful home.
Yes. Yes.
People do that have never been in our sanctuary,
Yes.
and our banners are up and everything. I think it's great, and we're kind of used to looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know when they were debating what the form would look like, they wanted it to look churchy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was what they specifically said when they were building it. It had to look churchy, pretty much. And I thought, okay, well, it does.
Oh, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which then says something as well, and it, as a reminder in terms of, I feel like there was particularly a push, and maybe this was kind of late 90s, early in the 2000s, and you still hear it somewhat too. Not theologically incorrect, right? Of, well, I can go experience God anywhere, right? Like I can experience God in nature, I can experience God and that's true. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, but there is a good reminder as well that there is something can be particularly captivating and holy and sacred about spaces that are dedicated for worship. And whether that is, a church or even, those, thinking of like at camp, right? There's, worship sites where you go, oh, okay, there's something, here
Something
that's
special.
set aside
Yeah.
for that purpose. And that almost, I feel like it almost always is, and I bet you might have stories as well from when you were growing up, things you could do in the church, right, in the worship space, and things you couldn't, and things that your parents or folks that in the faith that loved you taught you about. Well, how do we conduct ourselves in here? And it's there's always this tension there. I feel like of how is it that we treat these spaces, but also then recognize as well that these are open spaces that are
the space.
Well, I think also it goes to kind of in the theology aspect, way of looking is that God gave this to us, gave this world to us, but it's almost in the same kind of a realm of tithing. Just like he gives us our treasure, but we give back to him. We give back to him. We tithe that to him. And so these spaces, and it goes beyond Judeo-Christianism. It goes back to just human culture, anthropological culture, is these spaces that humans know it's just a space, but they give it to God. And it's God's now, and we identify this as a space that I know it's just space, and we do have control over it because we're here with that space, but this is God's, and so we look at that as something given to God. So we respect it as God's property almost, or this is God's, and we give it to God. So we don't want to disrespect it, or so it's kind of us giving to God. And it's a sacrifice. We're giving up. He's given us all this land, all this world. But we give back these small pieces of it to him.
when we were growing up, it was a very low income area. That now they call it colonias, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the one thing on Sunday you dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
You dressed up to go to church, and you were quiet in church. You didn't talk. You didn't talk, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that has changed in the years, you want to hear noise, you want to hear the children. But I remember, I mean, I was a child,
but-
and you didn't talk. You sat there and you
I felt the
meditated.
hand kind of going on my neck every once in a while. Okay.
You meditated, you prayed.
Feel that.
That was the place.
Yeah. My aunt Irma, I always laugh. She has twins. She has my cousins, these two, Judy and Jane, and they were twins. And Judy and Jane both started when they were little girls. Their mother always liked to dress them up. They were farm. They were on the farm, you know.
Yeah.
And but on Sundays, she said we were always dirty. You know, they were working all the time. But on Sundays, oh no, they got scrubbed down. You know, the bow in their hair, and they had their Sunday clothes on. And Grandpa, they had their little shoes. And their dad, not Grandpa, but their father would carry them out to the car and put them in the back seat, and they had to sit in the back. When they got, then they would walk. You know, there was a sidewalk at church, but on the farm, no, it's dirt and mud.
Don't walk in the dirt.
And that's what, and they had their little white gloves on. That
I
was
remember
church
the
days.
white gloves.
It was very, very, very important.
But it's interesting, Phil and I go to a lot of churches, and just one, to look at them and see, you know, how they both decorated and what they consider holy, etc. And it's amazing when you find people who have never been in a church, because they walk in like tourists, you know, and they just, you know, oh, well, let's go up there and take a picture. Oh, wonder what's back in this corner, which, you know.
You see it in Europe. I'm sure you've seen a lot of, yeah.
And what's in that corner is none of your business, because that is sacred area.
A lot of them have to put those little gates, the naves, you know.
Yes,
they'll put a little gate
yes,
there just
that-
to keep people from.
The gates and the naves, you're right. I remember
Open them
those.
for parishioners and things like this.
Yeah,
But just
I
on-
remember those. Like, you don't go behind this area.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's really sad when you see people who haven't had that experience and going in.
Yeah.
But they also have to be very clear, this is a service, you do not come in.
Yeah, yeah,
No tourist at this moment.
yeah.
There was one item that popped up at me, it just kind of hit me. It starts at 10, mostly at 10 and 11, maybe mostly 10. The second half of 10. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than live in the tents of wickedness. And then, you know, for God is the sun and the shield and bestows favor on. But then the next one in 11 says, no good things does the Lord withhold from those who walk uprightly. You know, so I think about that other way around, but that the second half of 10 and the second half of 11 kind of go together.
Yes.
And, you know, and so,
Yep.
and it's interesting about how we, you know, our culture, I think that's always been the case in, you know, human culture, is, well, let me just say that, like in the second half of 11, I would rather clean the bathrooms at my church for $1 a week or whatever than be a drug dealer and have nice cars and all this kind of stuff. You know, you can plug in anything you want into those two things. But you know, in our world, in the world, you know, how can you live on, you know, just a few dollars a week and everything? You know, that's just the key right there.
Right.
I'll have faith in my God, you know, and as opposed to, you know, trying to have all this material wealth, because the focus isn't like what can you accumulate here. You know, if you read kind of inversely what it says in 11, you know, the God does not withhold those who walk uprightly. So what he's saying is that for those who don't walk uprightly in this world, then you know, your treasure, what does he say? You've got your treasure here on earth, you know, And so I just think those two, those, when you read those, they just kind of hit me like that. Is don't focus on the material wealth. And I can't remember what movie it was or TV show or something that one of the characters was embarrassed because his dad was a men's room attendant, and he was always kind of embarrassed about that, But he in this show, they ended up refueling their relationship and found that his dad was a really great guy and all this. But it's just one of those things where I'd rather be the attendant in the bathroom, serving God than being a big successful executive or something like this. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
To really live that out is, that's not easy.
I think it's even harder though if you are a big executive trying to live a
Yeah.
godly life.
It's hard for a rich man. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's harder than it's very hard. It's not that you're not allowed to. It's just to understand. But
It's kind of like Job's problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's in that person's heart? And
Right. And what are your friends going to think about you? Anyway?
Yeah. I happen to know the Kane family, Sam Kane family. They used to own the meat plant out here, and I mean they're always
Just a little wealthy.
yeah, but they give so much money away, and they're involved in so many things, and they're just and it's I first met them when I was a sophomore in high school, and that's always who they've been. That's who the old man was about. That's what the old folks were about, and that's what Jerry and his wife were all about, and that's really deep in their heart. So, that's an example of people who are wealthy and have a lot of gifts in this world, but at minimum, I don't know. I'm no judge to say what's good enough, or how much is enough, or what's enough time to be spent or anything. But it certainly, I think, is a reflection of what's in their heart. And I think that's where God looks when He's going to be judging us often, is not so much while we're saved by our sins, by Christ and all, but, I think a lot of that judgment is, well, what was your motivation? What's in your heart? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what also kind of then reinforces and also echoes some of that as well is, in verse 3 where we're talking about, the sparrow and the swallow, so talking about the least of these in creation, finding a place of safety and security. Yeah. Think of those barn swallows, right? That build nests kind of up and under and out of the way, so that they can find that place. Which I don't know if I'm quite ready to open the doors and let all the birds into God's dwelling, our part of God's dwelling place. But where it's a reminder of at least to me that there is an openness, right, to the least of these. God doesn't always necessarily, there's phrases like that kind of make their way around at different points, right? But, God doesn't necessarily call all of us together, when we're bright and shiny and when we're perfect and when we're, on
good behavior.
Yeah. It's calls us together from all kinds of places, at all kinds of times. And so, at least for me, it's a reminder of like, okay, slow down, right? As much as, yes, we want to have a balance of, that which is sacred, that which is holy. Maybe the tourists don't go there, right? But the tourists are welcome, in this place. They have the opportunity to see and engage with it, just because, someone may not know, how to particularly act. It doesn't mean they can't be taught or maybe don't want to know, but they just, you can't inherently expect them to know. It was one of, anyways, it was funny stuff you see on social media. It was like a comedian that posted, and he had a song in the background, but the lyrics, you know, it was like a popular song. But the joke he was making is like on Christmas and Easter, right? When there's people that come and, you know, especially in the Roman Catholic expression of faith, there's a lot of, you know, sitting and standing and crossing. And so the kind of point was making is like, you know, okay, watch, you know, when you are one of those people that are, you know, faithful and kind of know what's going on, then it's like, no, you know, watch me move, you know, when I move, do the same thing. When I do this, you know, exactly, right? So yeah, that was the joke. And it's like, I love when that one kind of pops up or kind of comes back around, because it's sort of true, right? You know, we have an opportunity then to kind of, you know, model for people. And I would say that's not expressly just in our worship setting, but the way in which we, you know, express our faith in the world and in the day-to-day, we can help model that. Is, you know, some of the things that are listed here, and again, it's a reminder too that it's so funny that, and there's been conversation about this where worship is far and away the point where people who don't have connection with the church are first exposed to the church is worship. It's also like the worst, right? Because there's so much inherently there. I mean, even though we put it in our bulletins, you know, okay, this is when you stand or this is when you kneel. We verbally kind of help guide people in those. It's intimidating, right? If you, thinking of the point you made, Cecilia, if you've never done anything like that or never come from, you know, or don't have any kind of background to that, it can be tough to kind of onboard in a quick sense. This is what's going to happen. That's why I think I've mentioned this before too, but, you know, especially at funerals, I'll remind people, like, yes, our service is participatory. Like, if you know, you are welcome to sing the songs, because even now there are certain denominations and expressions of faith that, you know, and not saying anything disparaging about them, but you don't necessarily sing. You don't necessarily participate in the worship. You are there, you are present, you are meant to, you know, take it in, but, you know.
Don't participate.
If you can't sing, don't sing, right? Well, we're the opposite, right? If you can't sing, try, sing along. Exactly.
Anyway,
so
yeah.
it's...
Much of the middle-aged Catholic church was like that. You know, you went, but you really kind of observed the priest. I mean, there's actually, you know, kind of a gated thing between the clergy up front and the parishioners in the back, and you really were just there to observe, you know, and you observe the priest taking communion and things like that. And so, which is just different, you know, different way back then. So. Yeah, I was just going to mention too that what I was saying before, it just dawned on me, is that what I was saying before, if you can recall, it goes back up to 5. Is happy are those whose strength is in you, God, in whose heart are the highway to Zion. And really what that means is, right, at least I'm reading it, is that for those who do put the focus and the emphasis on God as opposed to the worldly things. And I just thought it was interesting because in my book it says that the Hebrew lacks to
that
Zion.
word, Zion.
To Zion.
In that place. Yep.
Yeah, on the highways. But it's nice that they put that in there because but you know, to Zion just means God. I mean, that's the way I'm reading it. Zion means, you know, Jerusalem, or, you know, that here on earth. But I just thought that kind of adds to it. I think the reason that they put Zion in there is because I'm just thinking about this like geographically. If you read, you know, 6 and 7, this kind of sounds like somebody who's on their way someplace, and it isn't until you get to the end they'll see you in Zion. Oh, okay, so these people are, you know, I'm picturing you going up to Bryant or something. Very good.
Spilled it myself.
You couldn't have put that
sitting
further
on the table.
Yeah, and you couldn't have put it
Put it
further
further
away from you.
In the
so
hope that I wouldn't like talk
spill
with my hands
Yeah.
and spill it, and yet I
That's
go to
fine.
reach it and spill it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes.
Well, mine
absolutely.
has
That's
notes
funny.
about that this is a psalm celebrating pilgrimage to Jerusalem in order to worship at the temple.
Yeah, that, okay,
They are
great.
on the pilgrimage and
Perfect,
going.
yeah.
And
That's
a
how
lot
I
of the
was, that's what it
Psalms
seemed like to
are
me
that
too,
way.
so that's neat. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Because
just toss
they had
in
to
the
go
word.
to Jerusalem certain number of times a year.
Yes.
And how do you get there? You're walking.
Yes.
And then
So-
just toss in the word highways.
Yes. Highways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just seems like
Yes.
a weird word to show
Yes.
up there.
Well, and especially for culturally the way that we view highways
Yeah,
versus what
yeah,
you know
yeah.
there were
They
no
weren't
such
running them.
things.
Yeah.
Well, the highways, the reason I
Yeah.
call them highways is because that's usually where the walkways were.
Sure.
Yeah, the
Right,
higher.
right.
You know,
higher.
it's either it's muddy or the
Levels.
farms, and just like if you drive out in the country here, you see where the road is. It's kind of built up. You know, it's higher than it's a high. It's a way. It's a higher way. People would walk along the
Yeah.
peaks of the hills and things.
Well, and thinking about 5, 6, and 7, kind of taking all those together as sort of a unit too. One of the things that I was thinking about with it is, talking about these pilgrims, right, and the ways in which they make dry places fertile, right? They make it a place of springs. The Valley of Baca, I have a note in mind about, not
Dry
they don't,
place.
but it's a dry place, right? They don't necessarily know, if they or maybe don't have a specific geographical tie, but a dry place, right? And so it's a reminder of then, and what I love is there's kind of this. Tension's not the best word, but there's this dynamic, right, between the holy place of God and this dry place that then the praise of pilgrims brings the springs of life to. And so a reminder for us in the ways in which our prayers, our praise, our thanksgiving of God can help transform spaces around us. Again, it's not us that's doing it, it's God doing it through us, but that act of as we travel and as we pilgrim throughout the world, that prayer and praise and that witness has an effect on things that are around us.
On Saturday, we had the women's Bible study on stewardship. And that's what I read in here, is that you're taking care of the land that you're pilgriming through. You're developing it and maintaining it as you go.
Yeah.
And
And there is this particular focus, right, on Zion, on God, the strength of God in us. And I think that's important context to hold on to and call out, starting at the beginning of verse 5, happy are those whose strength is in you. Because easily then that idea of going from strength to strength could be co-opted, one of those like, okay, I'm just going to pull this verse out. And like, well, you're just supposed to go from strength to strength, right? You're never supposed to go through the valley. Well, okay, whatever, one verse earlier talks about going through a valley, right, or a dry area. And so it's, that contextualization is important because, easily you could say, well, buck up, right, be happy, go from strength to strength. And it's like, well, sure, but also the road of a pilgrim doesn't always just... How do you get from one mountaintop to the other mountaintop, or even a hilltop to another hilltop? Well, you gotta, you can't just, these days we build a bridge and just go straight across, but, if you're walking, usually you wind down and through and then back up and then down and through
Always
and back
remembering, like we talked a couple of weeks ago, always remembering God is with you through the waters. God is with you always.
through it.
I walk through the valley and
Yeah, through the valleys, and
Yeah.
so you're always going up and down somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is with you.
This is just a silly thing. In the second half of 7, the God of gods, plural. Is that
With lowercase g. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that going back to let's make them in our image?
Oh, yeah. Well, then right there is that idea of the monotheistic faith of the people of Israel being in conversation with those around them in terms of multiple gods and multiple deities, and so how yeah, God being above other gods. Because there was that came up in one of the other Psalms we read. I don't remember, but it was kind of that idea of God's placement among other deities.
And similar to like Paul when he was in Pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
There was that one that said the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you about that unknown God.
Yeah.
Well, we have this word, and I'm grateful for the multiple translations that we have around, and so when Gracie read it, blessed, right, or happy, or those, it's kind of one of those that's repeated phrase, and it's it's emphasized quite a bit in this parable, and so what I think this parable helps us to remember is that blessedness, right, that happiness is not necessarily a forced thing. We're kind of coming up on the end of the year where people sort of focus on that sharing of their particular blessings, and not that lens is not bad, because I think it helps us to recognize it, but it's certainly not a forced or co-opted thing. It's a naming of that blessedness who trusts in God, whose strength is God. It's reinforcing that as a word of praise. All right, you ready for something fun? Do you want to sing the psalm? We're going to sing the psalm.
Sure.
So contemporary
Jorge?
Christian music
Yeah, Jorge.
sometimes nails it, but there's a song by Matt Redman, or at least that's whose it's, but takes words directly from the song. So I brought my guitar today. And if you've heard it, you're welcome to sing. If not, you can kind of join in as times go along. So it's not just a concert, but it can also just be a concert too. So, anyways, but yeah, anybody familiar with this song? It's so funny because the contemporary Christian label goes back to like when I was a kid. So you're talking like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So I don't know what you consider sort of old, but in contemporary Christian terms, this is not a new song. It's not. It may be new to you, but yeah, this is not necessarily oh, I don't think you hear it on the radio anymore. Like at one time you did, right? Or it was if you went to Mardell's or something like that, you might hear it. But it's so funny. I think we were shopping at Hobby Lobby, and I think I heard like a Muzak version of this song. So like that tells you kind of how old it is. But yeah. Anyway, so. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. My soul longs and even faints for you. For here my heart is satisfied within your presence. I sing beneath the shadow of your wings. Better is one day in your courts, better is one day in your house, better is one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. Better is one day in your courts, better is one day in your house, better is one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. Thousands elsewhere. One thing I ask and I would seek to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells. One thing I ask and I would seek one day in your house, better is one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. My heart and flesh cry out to you, the living God. Your spirit's water to my soul. I've tasted and I've seen. Come once again to me. I will draw near to you. I will draw near to you. To you. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts. Thousands elsewhere. Better is one day in your courts. Better is one day in your house. Better is one day in your courts. Thousands elsewhere. Thousands elsewhere. So there you go.
Nice.
Yes.
The psalm come to life. So there are still psalmists, out there in the world. There's folks that are taking these words and setting it to music, taking those images, taking those thoughts, and but yeah. So, anyways, we couldn't. In my mind, I couldn't read that psalm and then not sing this song because it was,
Yeah.
there's certain things that immediately, whether that's hymns that
Yes.
are dearly loved or contemporary Christian songs or whatever, and so. It's one example of how, even musicians, these days they're not necessarily pulling stuff out of thin air, or making it all up in whole cloth, but taking stuff and I think the Psalms are a particular, it's not an always thing, but often when when I hear different. Newer, I would say, contemporary Christian. There are times where it's like, oh yeah, I know that where that comes from, or oh yeah, I've heard that before, and so often it'll be like one or two lines that then but in this case, a pretty good recreation in my estimation of the psalm. So
Just wanted to tell you that my very first date with Phil was to his church for a contemporary music service. And yes, they played the guitar.
yes,
Now, understand I was from the Church of Christ.
Yeah.
Oh,
A little
wow.
different.
Oh, wow.
And not only that, but they had a choir. The choir was seated with everybody else, but, they sat at the front so they could be heard. But it was very interesting to see that particular thing. But it was sold as a contemporary service.
yes.
And like I said, and that was 56 years ago. So
That always, look, we've had people come and visit, and, well, they enjoyed it, but they were looking for something contemporary, and I'm going like,
Yeah.
so tell me what you're looking for, because that's a broad
Yes.
thing. I'm going like, one of our songs was Marty Haugen. I mean, how contemporary are we
Yes.
getting over here? But they don't recognize that because it wasn't
Yes.
what they were
On the
looking
radio
for
or
was
on- yeah.
the praise chorus
Yes.
contemporary,
Yes.
which is another animal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of it,
Yeah.
but it's not the whole thing.
Well, and what I've been glad for is a lot of those labels by which we were trying to define what worship was or kind of
Yeah.
differentiate largely have fallen away, because it's so funny. I've had encounters with the opposite, not recently, but where people would say, oh, I was looking for a traditional service, and like that, it certainly wasn't traditional enough.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
really fascinating but a good question, right? On, well, what do you mean by that, or what are you looking for in that? Because we had that conversation. We were doing the previous church I worked at, we were doing a website redesign, right? And like we had that middle service, and it was contemporary, and I went, y'all, this is not contemporary. At that point, at one point it had been different and maybe used different songs, but at the iteration that we were at, we were using the same songs from the same service. And I'm like, this is not like across all 3 services. And I'm like, people would walk in here and say that's not contemporary because
Right.
they're looking, and
Yeah.
so I think in general many churches have kind of stopped trying to label one way or another
Right.
what worship is or what their style of worship is, or I think you can still use those terms and use them in a helpful way to kind of prompt people as to what to expect, but for as traditional as our worship is, it is not the full-on
It is
like
not.
traditional,
No.
and that's okay.
We've been there. In,
Yes,
You know,
I mean
with
there
other times,
there
but-
are Lutherans where if you don't use, it would have been setting 2 in the
Yeah.
green hymnal. I
Right.
think it's like setting 3 or 4 in our
3.
current one. If you don't use that and you don't do every single part of it, then it's not traditional
Then you haven't
worship.
done
And it's like,
traditional.
okay, and so yeah. I mean, we use setting 10, we use setting 4. It's like
We have them already have this. It's not even
yeah,
in the
we
book.
use the
I'm sorry,
now the
you
piece,
know.
yeah. So it's like it, yeah. And so, and again, that's where, yeah. And I think that was of a time where people would needed something to kind of help differentiate. And I don't think that's maybe as crucial anymore. It can be helpful, but yeah.
Well, we say ours is traditional. St. John is traditional.
Yes.
It's different.
2 different services. Yeah.
You want to go to Galilean, it's traditional, but it's different than
It's also different.
than any of ours. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
depends
looking
on
at
where
that.
you go.
It's funny, even when it comes to, for me, when we have those times when you can put your favorite songs.
Yeah, that's what
I
we're doing.
really, even to this day, and
Yeah.
we've talked about this before, I have no idea.
Sure.
There'll be a song, I'll hear Terry start up the music, and we'll start, oh, I like this one.
Yeah,
That's as far as I go. I don't remember the name. It's like back in when I was a kid and I heard a song on the radio. I'd remember it.
yeah,
And I wouldn't think about that again until it pops around and some other time. Oh yeah, I like this song. And so it's that same kind of thing where So would I want a service where every song is always the song that I like? I don't know. I mean,
Once in a
that's not even
while.
important to me.
Yeah.
Because, and it's same with the church. What kind of a church? I mean, it's nice when people go around and find a church that they feel comfortable with. That's great. But what kind of service do I like? I kind of look at it like wine. I like wine. What's your favorite wine? I've been drinking wine for decades now. What's your favorite wine? I couldn't.
yeah.
I wouldn't even know. I have no idea, and I didn't even know the names of many of these things. But I remember times when I had a glass of wine. That's really good. Do I remember the name of that wine or no?
No.
But that particular, I really enjoyed that wine that
Yeah.
day. That was
Yes.
really good wine.
Yeah.
No idea. But I'm perfectly happy to sit down in someplace else and try another glass of wine. And
Yeah.
maybe that one doesn't really, whatever. And I don't remember that one either. I just kind of go through life. I want to go to church,
Yes.
and be
Yeah.
with other people who love God. And there'll be times when, some music I don't particularly like, or, whatever, but it's just like, but it's like the taste of wine. It's
Sure.
not my wine, but I'm, that kind of a thing. It's just kind of let it. I'm never that particular, and to try to like, what's your favorite this and favorite that, and I look at that like, what's your favorite meal? Food.
Yeah.
It's food.
Yeah.
Food.
I don't know, because what if I did identify my favorite meal? Would I want that meal every day?
No,
No. That's the beauty of coming across. Wow, that's what makes it special. That's when you have to try. Before you know what your favorite meal is, you kind of have to try them all. You have to go out and experience and try all these different wines, so you have a feeling of what you like. I guess the girls in high school call it kissing a lot of frogs or something like that.
I don't know if I've ever heard that phrase. That's a
Kiss
new
a few
one.
frogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't just, you're not just gonna go out and date your future husband. You gotta go meet some boys, have a conversation with them, you know?
Kiss different frogs.
Yeah, well, it's that type of a thing, and, but anyways.
Well, I never have the most favorite
Yeah.
hymn. There is.
Or favorite genre, really.
I
there's more
probably
popular
have
ones.
a list of those I do not like. I
Yeah,
can tell you that more
sure.
quickly than I can, because I like a lot of different hymns. Every time we sing something, I'm going like, oh yeah, I really like to sing this one. Well, I like to sing a lot of the hymns, so, just keep going. But I'll tell you, I can probably list what I really don't want to sing. It's for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe it's the hardest thing to play on the keyboard. Took me years to play Holy, Holy, Holy. It was written in 4 sharps. That's a lot of black keys
Yes.
on the piano, and your
Yes.
fingers don't want to go there.
Yes.
I finally did, and I went to the Methodist church, and they wrote theirs in 2 sharps. My fingers did not want to go there either.
You're like,
That's
this
not
made
what
it
it was used
harder.
to.
So you're saying the Lutheran churches are sharper than the Methodist?
No, not really.
That's hilarious.
Well,
Four times?
we don't. It's not in 4 sharps.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it is now, but
We're twice as twice as sharp.
yeah, things
Yeah.
are weird.
Yeah, we're all so into
So it's like, well, if you had to name one of your favorite hymns, that's really what we're asking.
I would have to say Messiah.
Yeah, so
Which is an entire piece.
yeah, well, it's
You
a
can pick anything out of there and I'll sing.
collection
I love-
of
That's my
pieces,
favorite.
So, but anyway, Sunday's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a good list.
Yeah. Well, and it is one of those that.
I know she got more hymns than that.
Well, yeah,
so
we're
we might
gonna
have to
have
do
one
that
in
again.
November as well. So yeah, and really what it does, it's so funny because it not only it allows for those that have preference to be able to share that, right, and to be able to have. But yeah, no, there's folks that like, man, if we could sing How Great Thou Art every Sunday, they would love it. They would want to sing that song literally every Sunday. Like, can't get enough of it. And I'm like, yeah,
Well,
that's
they
great.
think so,
You know.
but if we did,
Well, yeah, it's like if we
we
actually did,
it,
yeah.
they would think.
It's one of those hard
something
questions,
else
right?
to
If
say.
if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life,
Right.
what would it be? And
It's
so
definitely-
so it's and we I don't know.
So it's like
there's a lot,
reading the same psalm all
Sure.
the time. We don't,
Sure.
we don't even get all 150 covered,
Yes,
in
yeah,
the lectionary. So
it's true.
this is good.
It's true. But so
So
we
what else you got?
well.
on the
That's
list?
12:04, so we got to
Oh,
wrap
wow.
up. But yeah, and what's funny is so the one that we're rolling into, we'll be in Psalm 86 next time, so we're going to
Okay.
skip one. But what I love about it, and if you want to kind of read ahead, I'll give you a little bit of. But it's so funny that we're kind of talking about different music and different things like that, because really what they've looked at with Psalm 86 and what commentators and stuff have said about it, it's sort of a mosaic of different like psalm fragments, like different so it's kind of pieced together. Or the thing that I made said, well, it's a playlist, right? It's a mixtape, it's a mix CD, right?
Yeah,
Like
there you
I'm
go.
gonna mix together, it's like
A mashup.
yeah, maybe in a really really contemporary thing, it's like maybe if you ask AI to write a psalm, right, it's just gonna pull all of the different like pieces of so it'll be really interesting to like dig in. But yeah, it's sort of like okay, we'll just play all the greatest hits, but in
Yeah.
one psalm form,
Yeah.
and that's what Psalm 86 is. So a good psalm. It'll be fun to talk about, but it'll also give us space
It's a mix.
next time to talk as well about. And I knew this was for certain, and that's why I brought this book, is I wanted to read a few examples out of it. But lines of psalms show up throughout the Psalter. If things sound familiar, that's because it is, and it's because they're really meaningful things, and so we'll be able to talk about that next week.
There was something that just hit me. In the song, it says to see your beauty, ask that I would seek to see your beauty. Where is that in?
It wasn't. So I think that
Oh, okay.
is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
That's okay. I mean, that's
yeah.
okay. I was just curious because
For sure.
I think I mentioned this little poem. It's an Arabic poem by this woman Arabi Ibn Arabi. I forget her name now. Baghdadi. Arabi Baghdadi was her name. Anyways, and that's that little poem where she says, and she's telling God, she's praying to God. It's like, if you think I love you because I want to go to heaven, then grant me not entrance. If you think that the reason I love you is to avoid going to hell, then cast me to the fire. If you think I love you for who you are, then show me thy beauty.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that same
Yes.
comment there. And I was just thinking, I didn't see this in here. But
It wasn't in that song directly, but what it might be is it might be something where it's pulled from another
Yeah.
psalm. So it's like, you know, in a sense, its own kind of.
It's an interesting. I've always been fascinated with that concept of beauty because it goes back to Greek. It's a big part of Plato and all of these monists, what they call them. And it's that concept of, we always have this concept innate to us is, even songs, what's a better song? What do you think is a better? We always look at that. What's a better? Which pencil is sharper? We've always got this gradient,
comparative
this
piece.
comparative gradient. And so when you think of that, well, what is the best then? What's the sharpest pencil? What's the strongest? What's the, we're always captivated by the most, the strongest, the highest, the longest, the biggest, the heaviest, or whatever it is. And that drives you someplace. What that drives you is to some ultimate concept of the best.
Yeah.
And so beauty is that same way. That concept of beauty, and that's a huge thing in Platonic, any kind of the monist philosophers, and it's a big part of God too. In Judaism and Christianity is that ultimate, that most high. And that's even in this, or in that verse, that poem I said too. It's that beauty that we ultimately strive. It's in our mind. We have a concept of it, and we're always drawn towards that. And that's part of who God is amongst everything else. It's also that ultimate concept of beauty, of comfort, of love, of all those things. But beauty is one of them. So
Yes.
So I always find it to be an interesting thing.
And it's not necessarily frequently talked about, but it is definitely in there, as you were mentioning. Part of our history, a part of that seeking, especially like you find it sometimes in like the church father and mother writings, so like the kind of more ancient Christian writings. A lot of the times it also shows up in those that are classified as mystics by the church. That's especially where they will bring up those concept of beauty and being in touch and being captivated by the beauty of God. So yeah, it's not it's not frequently mentioned, but yeah, it is something that's, like you said, definitely a part
There's
of
a perfection. It's that concept, that perfection. That it's just really unheard
John
of.
Wesley was looking for perfection, how we get perfected.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
But when I think of beauty, I also think of the inverse. What normal standards of beauty are. That's not what he's talking about.
What's normal is rags to us. I mean, to God. I mean,
Sure.
what we say is normal means nothing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just it's just such a stunted, bad concept. At our best efforts, we
The
can never.
description in Revelation of streets of gold and all the jewels
Yeah,
and
but gold, even
The
gold and
gates-
jewels. That's just
the
our,
gates- are made of pearl and fantastic description of the New Jerusalem. It's just
Of course, the
beyond.
truth. I
It's
think that-
beyond our
Yeah, there
our
you go. That's the truth
imagination.
is that
But,
what
you
you
know,
described is
that's as
is
much
like a
as
back
we
alley
can-
compared to what
Yeah.
It's indescribable. I mean, it's
It is, really.
incomprehensible. The beauty, the perfection,
Yeah.
and it's just and that goes on not just beauty, it goes on all those levels of love, of kindness, of being felt as though you're needed, that you're wanted, that you're recognized as you as an individual. All those things, that we crave as human beings, the love, the arms around you, being nurtured, 67, 8-year-old man, crusty and angry, being nurtured, having someone's arms around you, nurturing, putting your hand on the back of his head and just holding him, let him weep and just feel loved. I mean, it's beyond that a billion.
Yeah, it is.
It's so magnificent that it's just, incomprehensible.
Yeah. There's a deep truth to that whatever conception we have of those things that are of God is not both not enough and also not exactly how we picture it or want to say it. But it's not our standard, and it's not.
All I can think is it'll be better than I home.
Yeah.
Ice cream was better than I would have drank. That cake looked good, but boy, it was better than ever. That kind of thing. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Good. I mean, it's good to keep in mind because it's one of those where, the bigness, the moreness is beyond. And yet we get glimpses of it. We get tastes of it. So we hold on to that as well. That we've been gifted with language and the ability to kind of see it and experience it. So that it's not even. We see through a mirror dimly, right? That was the words Paul used for it, and we'll see fully one day. But I'm glad that we at least see dimly. That helps.
Yeah.
Helps it.
The one-eyed man is the king in the world of the blind.
There you go. All right. Well, let's pray. Well, gracious God, we give you thanks for the opportunity to gather together in your dwelling place. That you have chosen to not only dwell among us, but guide us into community together. That we have a place that we can come and worship you, that we can make our own pilgrimages to experience your beauty, to experience the place where you are. And help us to take what we experience here and carry it with us into the world, to seek those places where you dwell among us, and all of the places around us, that our experience and our praise here would go out and be turned into praise that would have effect on those places around us, that the dry places, through your word, through your spirit at work in us, would be places of springs, places of joyousness. And so guide us in the way in which you would have us to go. Help us encounter those who are in need so that we might see them and help them. Bring us back again together soon. All of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Well, have a safe trip, Pastor.
Thank you.
That's a busy